Good evening and welcome to the Town of Dudley Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Present this evening, we have Thomas Janaki, Clerk of the Board, Richard Clark, member, David Durgan, member, Daniel Edmiston, member, William Scanlon, our town planner, is not present this evening, and myself, Guy Horn, chairman. We have the first item on our agenda for this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take care of that. The next item on our agenda this evening, we need to elect a new vice chairman for the planning board. So would somebody like to make a nomination for the vice chairman's position?
Mr. Chairman, it gives me great pleasure to nominate Mr. Edmiston as our new vice chairman.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
That was too quick.
We didn't even rehearse.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
I'm abstaining.
It's unanimous. Will you accept it, Mr. Edmiston?
Yes, I will. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
The approval of the minutes from January 11th meeting is going to be postponed to the next meeting. It's still being reviewed by the planner. Next item on our agenda is A&R plans. First one we have 47 Sawmill Road. So,
We'll be all right.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, no one's here to present the plan?
Is there anybody here for the presenting?
I can try to call him. Do you want to go to the next one? 'Cause
Let's just read the notes here that says what the purpose of the plan is, so maybe we can figure it out. It says, the purpose of this plan is to create lot 47-1 and reconfigure the lot line between lot 47-2 and 47-3 from land owned by, can't even pronounce the name, Ravindra P. Okay, recorded in deed book 53-431. So, trying to figure out 41, 42, 47-1, 47. Proposed lot lines. It's got
You have a checklist in here?
the checklist is here, there's no waivers required.
Everything appears to be checked off, Mr. Chairman, with the
Yeah.
exception of number 40, obviously, the delivery of regular skip. I think that's been done,
Yeah.
but not checked for some perhaps
The
oversight.
the driveway profile for lot -2. Okay. Seven acres. 24 acres.
You just wanna make a, different property lines.
Yeah, I
Property
mean,
lines,
it's-
proposal, property line, proposal, property line.
There's plenty of land here on all the lots.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Res 15, and they've got lots that are in
Yeah,
6.75 acres, 24.3 acres, and 7.27 acres. There's plenty of frontage. I'm guessing the -1 lot is an interior lot. It's over 5 acres, and it doesn't have the,
Where is the -1?
the one with the existing
Over there,
house.
okay.
the one with the-
Over there.
That one has the frontage.
That one has-
I happened to take a peek at that A&R because it's my neighbor.
Oh, yeah, it has 100.76 feet, it says,
Yeah,
okay.
it's his existing driveway that goes to that
Yeah,
house.
okay. I didn't see that. I thought it was the 73, but that's the angle. Okay. So there's no, yeah, there's no waivers, so this is,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out that number 6J, talking about the profile for the existing grades. I'm assuming this is being shown for lot 47-2 from Sawmill Road.
Yep.
That looks pretty steep. I'm not sure what exactly what the requirements are. Doesn't there have to be some kind of a flat area before they hit the road?
it says, please note the first 50 feet of the proposed driveway is to be 6% or less. That's our bylaw.
6% or less. Doesn't really notify on the plans what the percentage is there.
This is approval not required, so this will be.
To me, it looks like it's a 1-to-1 grade. You're going from 516 to 520. But a little difficult to tell. I just think they're trying to put a driveway there. It's gonna be, I'm taking over here. So the 47-2, they're showing this lot line here, so they have to get past the wetlands someplace. I'm assuming that's why they wanna move over this lot line.
Right.
Over there, probably for the frontage as well. But they have to get past the wetlands is what my guessing. I also wouldn't mind knowing when the last time the wetlands were flagged.
Okay, let me put you on speakerphone then.
Yep.
Just gotta find out. Hopefully.
I think you're gonna be able to answer all your questions.
Hi, you've reached Jay at DC Engineering and Survey, Inc., also at J. Jubal.
So assuming we can't get a hold of somebody, we don't have to approve this tonight, do we? We can
Hello?
ask questions.
Jay?
She's got 'em.
Yes.
Okay, you're on speakerphone.
Okay.
Could you identify
Do you want
yourself,
me to-
please?
Do you want me to discuss the plan, or?
Yeah, is this Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Okay. So we have your A&R plan here for Sawmill Road in Dudley.
Yep.
We had a couple questions for you.
Okay.
You wanna go ahead and ask your questions?
So I get two questions. The first one, do you know when the last time the wetlands were flagged on lot 47-2? Or any of the lots for that matter?
That I do not know when they were flagged. I do know that we showed, approximate location of them, but I don't know when they were flagged last. I don't know that they really, I don't know.
So you were on the site and did some sort of existing conditions to find out where the approximate boundary was, or?
Yes, so we did do a visual inspection, and then by using the LiDAR topography, we, basically just utilized that to show the depression areas and the swale areas, where the wetlands appear to be on the site.
Okay. And then, 1 second. The driveway profile for lot 47-2 looks pretty steep. Is that within our town guidelines?
47.2.
47-3 looks steep too, but
I think it looks steep on the profile because it's a vertical scale of only 8 versus 100 on horizontal, so it looks like it's extra steep, but there is a note, for the first 50 feet to be less than 6%.
So on lot 47-2, you're starting out at around an elevation of 516, and then at the marker 100 feet away, you're gonna be at, basically 523, is that correct?
516. Yeah, so that's what, 7 feet and 100?
Yeah, you're going up 7 feet and 100 feet.
So that's 7%. But that's existing. That doesn't, entail any proposed grading or anything like that.
Okay. And on lot dash 3, 47 dash 3, you've got, you're starting out at 512, you're going to 517. So you're about 5.7 feet and 100 feet, so that's a little less than 6%.
Correct.
Okay,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Any other questions from the board? Would somebody like to make a motion for the approval of the A&R plan for Sawmill Road?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the A&R as presented for Sawmill Road.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Dubois.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. In the Mylar, okay.
Let me get this cup out of the way here. Easily.
Called him like 10 times.
You get them both? Oh, sorry.
See what I'm done?
Oh.
You use this for your personal records? Got an archive in the backyard or something?
Okay, the next item on our agenda for this evening, we have another A&R plan, 196 Southbridge Road. Richard Chanel.
Sorry.
We've got somebody to explain it.
Good evening. Peter Engel, McClure Engineering. So 196 is at the corner of West Dudley Road and Southbridge Road, which is 131. Basically just splitting it into two lots with frontage on West Dudley Road. There are some wetlands. Those were flagged pretty recently, June. Both of them are pretty flat coming from West Dudley Road. We wouldn't be doing a driveway from 131. There's a little hill coming down there, and there's a guardrail, and it's state jurisdiction, so just trying to avoid that. But otherwise, coming in off of West Dudley Road is pretty flat. So we are asking for a waiver for the topo and the profile.
Um, Where would you think your proposed access for Lot A would be, from West Dudley Road?
Yep. Yeah, just to the, I guess, west of that C-series wetland.
Because is it most of Route 131, isn't it guardrail?
Yep.
The, I'm trying to remember, what's that? Do you have a copy of our zoning bylaws by any chance? Do you know off the top of your head what our build factor is for 1 acre lots? I thought it was 15.
I don't, off the top of my head.
Can you look up the build factor too? That's the only thing that I'm questioning.
We have the documentation, I don't see that there is one unless I'm missing it.
Well, it's in the zoning bylaw for, the build factor is related to the area of the lot versus the perimeter of the lot.
Yeah,
Did you get the zoning bylaw on October or the rules and regulations? I wasn't sure which one. This one?
24 and a half or less.
What did you have
24 and a half or less.
for a 1 acre lot?
For lots containing
I love
2 acres.
smartphones.
For- Oh, that's
Pull it up, too.
bigger than 2 acres.
There's two build factors.
Build factor for lots.
I just don't remember them.
Maximum build factor of 23. Lots recorded or endorsed after May 20th, 1991 shall be subject to a maximum build factor of 23.
Not these.
Check.
23?
Build factor. This
Yep.
one?
Okay, 23, yep. I think it used to be 15.
What about this existing right of way? Is that gonna affect that lot?
So, now there's the original, this original property, when they subdivided it, they had a
Check marks on each of those.
right of way, which is more like easement. And it says on the plan that that right of way will be created in the event that a subdivision road is built. The subdivision road was never built. There are houses on the rest of those lots. Their septic systems are actually in that right of way.
Oh, really?
And that right of way goes to a larger parcel which actually has frontage on the other end. So it's, nobody really knows the status of it. I talked to an attorney and they think it doesn't exist, but that's,
So whoever would be the owner of Lot B would have to build outside of to be
Right,
safe,
yeah.
would be build outside of the right of
Yeah.
way. One of my co-members was asking, how come, did you fill out the A&R plan checklist?
maybe.
So none
Do you
of,
want to take a look at it, I mean, to be sure?
none of the submissions items are checked. There's 2 waivers requested for 6E, the topography and profile, but we don't know if all the other things.
This is the other A and R that we had. Generally, there's a check mark indicating that the item has been addressed.
I think we didn't check, we did the waiver if it wasn't on there, otherwise it was there, I guess,
Okay.
rather than filling every little thing out. But I can go ahead and check those if you want. Everything else should be on there.
Yeah, I'm looking at name of the abutters, they're there.
What about taxes, if those are paid off? It's part of the checklist
Yeah, I think we had to get that sign off.
from Richard.
Has the submission fee been paid? The submission fee? It has? Good, good, good.
Yeah, And I can't imagine that Bill would have put it in front of us if the taxes were.
No, but you have to ask if it's not checked.
Right, yeah. Space. 4,350 feet.
So this existing right-of-way, this doesn't mess up your plans to build anything there at all?
What if someone on the other side, that big lot you were talking about?
So for
They
somebody
wanna
to
get into
build
it.
something through that right of way would have to go through Lot B as well as the next 4 lots.
And those already built on, you said?
Everybody's septic system is within that right of way.
So the other 4 lots, does the same right-of-way exist on them as well? And no one knows the status of it, why? If it's for power lines or if it's underground or?
The original plan says that a right of way is to be created if a subdivision road was to be built. But a subdivision road was never built.
Okay, so could you submit
It's-
that?
The assumption is that that actually doesn't exist, but that's for an attorney to decide, so we just kept it on here. It likely doesn't exist, but either way, we're doing the plans for Lot B and everything is gonna be outside that right of way.
And Mr. Chairman, unless there are any other questions, should I make a motion?
Yeah, I think the first motion we would need is for the 2 waivers on 6E and 6J. E is for the topography on the land contours at 2 feet, and J is for the profile of the existing grades.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the 2 waivers. First one for the topography of the land at the contour interval of 2 feet, and the second one for the profile of the existing grade at the proposed access to the lot, as seeing as both lots are relatively flat.
But, yep. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, a question, if I may. Well, I will second the motion, and then I have a question.
Sure.
I notice a similarity of names here in terms of members of the board.
I
And
have
the
those
applicant
same.
here is looking to recuse himself, perhaps?
Yeah, I have the.
It's his uncle. He doesn't have to.
I'm sorry?
It's his uncle.
Okay.
It's not
Well, either
like
way,
direct-
I wasn't aware of the relationship, I just noticed a similarity of names. So I've personally have had to recuse myself innumerable times with regards to the legacy property in back of me.
Butter.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like a direct family, brother, sister, mother, father, child.
Well, either
That's
way,
true.
I
I'll
don't know about
just,
steps, but-
Oh, yeah, you
call it done.
Mr. Chinaki has recused himself.
Yeah,
All right, so
Make it
we
easy.
have a motion and a second. All in favor with the exception of Mr. Chinaki?
Aye.
Aye. So we have 4 and 1 abstention. Dennison, would you like to make a motion to approve the plan now?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
with the assurance that the submission fee has been paid, we have the waivers approved. I'd like to make a motion that we accept this A&R plan for the property at, whose property at? 90
That's,
Southbridge Road and West Dudley Road, as presented.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, 4 and 1 abstention.
There's one sign. That one.
Just 1 Mylar, right?
Yes, everyone.
To recreate it if, I've never seen that note on any plan.
I know that other lane, you can't get over there. 'cause
Right.
it's very-
Yeah, sign these two things.
Everybody's signing these.
I'll take one.
Keep this one too, for your backyard collection.
Next item on the agenda, with the two A&R plans done. Number 4, review of preliminary plan for a conventional residential subdivision, Sawmill Road LLC, map 113, lot 65, 35 Sawmill Road.
Can I have you sign this for me?
Oh, I'll sign that one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out for the record that even though I wasn't a member of the board, I was a member of the, associate member of the board whenever Mr. Wetruba presented. I did go back and watch the video.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. We have the grave report in here somewhere. No, I don't think we're gonna see it. Graves on this one.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For the record, I'm Steve Wetruba, here representing Sawmill Road LLC.
So it looked like the list of, looks like there's a revised list of waivers requested.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, we had, during that last meeting, we had discussed a couple of those waivers and decided that they weren't necessary, so I removed those from the list. Also made the changes that were requested, or I should say advised by the town engineer during his review of the preliminary plan, with the exception of one item, item number 7, I believe. But in subsequent emails with the engineer, he felt, he had stated that he believed it would be reasonable for me to request a waiver for that requirement, which is, bear with me for a moment.
Are you still doing country drainage?
Yes, so, let me get back to that in a moment. For item number 7, I'm referencing the letter from Graves Engineering dated January 10th, 2023, subject Sawmill Road preliminary plan review. On page 2, item 7.
I don't think we got that in our books.
Yeah, I don't see it in here anywhere.
Hydrology and Mass Department of Public
No,
Works.
that's Nichols
Stormwater.
College.
Wrong date.
Nichols College.
Okay, wrong one.
I don't see it in here.
So we didn't get a copy of that.
Oh. Well,
Well, I think it was with last month's paperwork.
It might have been.
Not to be continued.
if you want to just go through what.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Mr. Wetruba, we can start.
Yeah, you want me to, well, I'll just talk about number 7, and then when you guys have a copy in front of you, because then, that way. So, item number 7, it says, "The plan needs to include profiles of the existing grades and approximate proposed finished grades of the roadway, drainage system, and water facilities." And so, the waiver that I'm requesting is for that requirement. And in a subsequent email that I had with the engineer, we talked about that there's a possibility that we're gonna be changing the grade at the entrance there anyways, because one of the other things he talked about in the review was the sight line of the new road in reference to Sawmill Road going in the easterly direction.
So this is where you have that note that says Lawrence Road center line is approximately 6 feet west of the proposed way center line?
No, that's actually the waiver. We have a waiver request for the, let's see, where is it? Streets, location and alignment, under section 4 of the subdivision regs. A, streets, location and alignment. Street jogs with centerline offsets of less than 125 feet should be avoided. Of course, the obvious thinking here is that if you're gonna have a street entering a street from across from another street, it would be ideal if they were lined up perfectly, creating a 4-way intersection. If it's over 120 feet before the next street, I guess it doesn't pose a problem. If it's under 125 feet, they want you to try and minimize that. We ended up including on the new plan, the revised preliminary plan, the location of Lawrence Road in reference to the new proposed way. And you can actually see that the center line is only off by about 6 feet.
Okay.
But it is off, it is not perfectly aligned, so that is why I'm still requesting that waiver for location and alignment. I'm still requesting the reduction in the right-of-way. I'm sorry, the reduction in the return radiuses from 30 feet to 10 feet, and then the reduction in the right-of-way, and the reduction in the pavement width, and this is all to accommodate the contour, the radius at the intersection of the proposed road and Sawmill Road. Item 4 is the dead-end streets, required, or asking for a reduction from 100 feet to 80 feet paved diameter of the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Waiver for open space, we talked about that last time because of the size of the project. We omitted the request for the waiver on the underground utilities. We decided we're gonna do the underground utilities, because remember, I think I had that, I misunderstood the regulations. I thought they were talking about the pole at the end, but since there's a pole actually at the, right near the intersection, it's actually, you can see it on the plan, there's a,
Okay, that's okay, we can share.
I got a copy already.
there's an existing pole on that side of the street, practically right in front of the subdivision, so.
Look at that over top.
So I took item G, the stormwater drainage plan, off as a waiver, because I wanted to clarify, I don't want any confusion. It's not that I'm trying to build a subdivision with no drainage, because I believe that came up at the last meeting. And it's that I want to use country drainage, which according to the peer review from, now that you guys have a copy of it in front of you,
Number 11?
Yes, number 11. So a waiver was requested to allow a country drainage system to be used. GEI has no issue with this waiver request, provided that the project meets the Mass DEP Stormwater Management Handbook relative to applicability. For housing development projects comprised of detached single-family dwellings on 5 to 9 lots, the stormwater management standards shall apply to the maximum extent practicable. So I discussed that with the engineer, and he explained to me that my engineer just has to show on the definitive plan that country drainage would suffice for the size of the paved area and the topography. And I intend to have him show that on the definitive plan.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, so the country drainage would be on either side of this 18-foot paved area? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Show a little bit there, and then, obviously, these are residential properties, and I expect they will be family homes at some point. So you're gonna have kids, you're gonna be walking to the corner of the intersection, because private way, school bus won't go down there.
Yep.
You're gonna be restricted to this 18-foot width.
Yep.
You're gonna have these puddles, if you will, on either side, the country
Yep.
drainage, forced to walk in the road.
Wait a minute.
I mean, the kids are gonna have to walk
Hold on,
on the
hold
road.
on. I'm gonna stop you right there. Did you just say puddles in the road?
Well, I'm characterizing, maybe falsely, and taking some liberties with it in terms of your country drainage, but in all likelihood, there was likely to be, possibly be standing water on either side of that 18-foot dimension.
Sure, I mean, and I remember we had this discussion, we had quite a lengthy discussion about, school buses and the poor little children, and I understand all that. But all I'm letting you know is I can't put berms and sidewalks on this project
All right,
unless.
And I can't put kids walking on roads to get to school buses that won't go to their properties.
Well, then.
And you see it here every day. The school bus stops every 15 feet in order for the kids to get on safely. We're putting them into a roadway, if you will. And it's not just the residents that are going to be using the roadway, Mr. Wetruba. You've got UPS, you've got the federal
We put
post office, you've got Federal Express, you've got everybody and his uncle delivering things today. So there's activity on that roadway probably all day long.
We put conventional sidewalks in with berms. That creates a situation where the water can't get off the road. Now the water has no place to go but into storm drains. If you have storm drains, now you have to have the infrastructure to carry the water away and someplace to dispose of the water. Now we're talking detention pond. It becomes a whole different project. And now it becomes financially unfeasible to do 3 lots back there.
Can I just?
It now becomes an 8-lot subdivision or more.
Go ahead, Dan.
Just real quick comment, I may be reading the plans wrong, but looking at the plan to the right side of the plan, we've got a higher grade of 520 to 522. On the other side, it's 516, 518. As far as I know, water does not flow uphill.
Yeah, it's gonna.
So all the water would be going to Plan West side unless you plan on doing something different with the proposed way?
Well, but the road will be fairly level. In other words, once we excavate, the road's not going to be tilted like this. You follow me, Dan?
Well,
So-
you could tilt the road at 0.5% or 1% and have a grade, have the drain to one side.
I'm saying-
And not make the road,
When we excavate this, we can cut in to this elevation on the right
right, I'm
and
just.
still have the water shed off both sides of the roads into the swales.
You could do that, or you could slope it all in one direction. Again, if you have 0.5% slope at a 18-foot width, that's
When they did Britley's Way,
an inch or two.
when they did Britley's Way, when I went out there and watched them when they were paving it and building it, they have the private way that goes down to the cul-de-sac, and all the way around the private way and around the cul-de-sac, they had about 4 to 5 feet width of crushed stone all the way around.
Yeah, that's that swale he's talking about.
And
That swale should discharge to his property. When I talked to Graves Engineering, he said that he has to do a perk test and everything to make sure the water's gonna leave the road and seep into the ground and not sit on top of the soil. Cause he has to pass that perk test, and water can't stand more than 24 to 72 hours on top. So there's a lot here that's still missing when I talked to Graves Engineering.
but I mean,
But this is a preliminary.
I mean,
Why
that-
why on God's green
Yeah, I
earth
know, he
would
told
anybody-
You
me.
said you're not gonna have the grade, the final grade, right? Isn't that the waiver number one? That you're not gonna have the finished final grades on the roadways? This preliminary plan. How is he gonna calculate whether you need,
Waiver number one is location and alignment. Oh, you're talking about on his,
profiles of existing grade and approximately proposed finished grades?
Yeah.
Yeah. Section 3, B. That's the first one.
What I was,
On the waiver page.
what I was gonna say is if you go to Ridley's Way, it's pretty flat.
Yeah, well, that's what Graves explained to me too.
Oh.
It's gonna be flat and the water's gonna seep off the road and it's gonna have to drain. If he has a high groundwater table, he might not even be allowed to do a low impact area subdevelopment. That comes into play after this.
I mean, the kids.
right, that's the one that we added.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids that live at those two houses on Ridley's Way, if they don't wanna walk onto the sidewalk, they can walk on the crushed stone on the side of the road.
Okay.
It's not crushed stone anymore.
What is
It's
it? What's
like
the road
moss.
width?
I went down there today.
Yeah.
Road width? Road width was always handled by Vinnie, our highway superintendent, was wanting everything to be 24 feet. That's why Bonner Road, all these roads are
But
24
the
feet.
town's never gonna plow the road, so it doesn't matter. They want
Yeah,
24
but
feet
he's
because
gonna
they have
still
12
have
foot.
snow buildup and everything.
They have
you
12-foot plows. They wanna plow one pass up and one pass back. That was the reason for the 24 feet.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna be plowed by the town, so, I mean, it's a private way.
Yeah,
So
but
if you
that,
had like the soil tested, the peephole test or whatever it's called, to
That-
see if it will drain,
that comes in later, Graves told me.
comes in later.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just remind the board in terms of the rules and regulations that we have, and I think these are what we are to abide by. The word shall is defined as mandatory, and under sidewalks, it is a shall, S-H-A-L-L. There's that.
Right, but there's also the, if you go to the.
Sidewalks always required on
If you go to
Dutton
the
Road.
beginning of the rules and regulations, it
Mhm.
says what's in the best interest of the town.
Well, I think it,
Well, it's,
if we, I
due
think
to
that the
public
best interest
safety, I
of the
think
town
you
is.
have to have a sidewalk on a dead-end road. You can't have kids walking in the middle of the road going to the school
200
bus.
It says purpose
I know,
of
but-
protecting the safety, convenience, and welfare
Yes.
of the inhabitants.
Yeah.
That's in the first three lines.
It's a
Is it
public
safer to
safety
have-
issue.
Convenience and welfare.
Is it
And if-
safer to have 3 houses at the end of a road exiting the traffic pattern on Sawmill Road, or 5? Or 10?
What's the question again?
In other words, you make me build the bigger subdivision so I can cover all my costs.
We're not
We're gonna have
making you
smaller
build
lot sizes. Yes.
No, I'm not making you build
Yes.
anything.
Yeah, we're not.
If this is left virgin land, it's that.
Oh, yeah, that would be fine for most people. Let's just have the taxpayer continue to pay the taxes on the property and never be able to do anything with it.
No.
Yeah, but what happens when you don't maintain the road and those taxes?
Mr. Wetruba, you know as well as anyone here, probably better than most, in fact, that if you had come through with requests for no waivers, this would be a rubber stamp.
Right, and what I'm trying to tell you.
And
I
you know
don't think-
also
I
the
don't think you're hearing
language
me.
in terms of the rules and regulations, and I'm sure I'm familiar with the definition of the word shall.
I don't think you're hearing me. I'm gonna try
I'm
and
sure you
rewrite
were
this and
even
explain it
supposed to be.
one more time. In order for me to ask for no waivers, I have to put in sidewalks on both sides of the road,
No,
berms.
We can waive one side.
Wait, no. I just heard that it's a
You know,
shall thing and it's a mandatory and you can't waive them. I
Believe
just
it
heard
was
that
on-
from both of you.
On public safety, you can waive one side.
All right, well,
No.
go ahead. Would you finish what else you'd have to do then?
Well, again, the cost of the infrastructure of doing all that means you have to have more lots there to offset that cost.
Yeah, but that's really
That's
not
all there
a
is to it.
problem.
Okay.
So you end up with 15,000 square foot lot sizes and more of them. And I'm trying to do what's best for that area, the neighbors. I
You're
sent a
walling
letter
it. I don't
to
feel
every
that's
single one.
walling. I'm looking at what we have to do.
I'm sorry, we got two conversations going.
I sent a letter to all of my neighbors, including, not just the abutters, everybody. I tried to get them all to come here. Of course, that letter said that the meeting was gonna be on the 8th. So, I'm sorry, the previous date, the date that we got
January 25th.
snowed out. So I don't know if they just decided that it wasn't that important. I had a couple of neighbors said they don't care what I'm doing. They know the family. They know owned the property a long time. They know something's coming. They don't care what we do. But I mean, I'm sure some people, if they were sitting here tonight, if they could have taken the trouble to come down here, and I said to them, I said, what would you rather see built back there? Would you rather see 3 houses back there or 5 or more houses back there? I think they would urge the board to let me do with the 3 houses. But I mean, I could see you, I got the feeling you're gonna take a hard line on this. So I'm gonna probably end up having to come back here with a definitive that's gonna make you very happy and have no waiver request on it. But I gotta tell you, that one's gonna be in the paper. That'll be published. And then all of a sudden, we're gonna have the JB Ave situation all over again. We're gonna have all those people gonna come in here en masse, all screaming about, how the heck are you guys letting him put in, 5, 10 houses back there? That's all I'm saying.
Waivers, we
We don't have any option.
We have to. I would rather see a bigger subdivision there, to be honest with you,
Why?
because you get more taxes, bigger taxes.
Yeah, but. the
But for
tax
every,
influence our budget.
for every single-family home
into
built in
public.
Dudley, the property taxes collected on that home aren't enough to cover the cost of the school budget alone for if there's one kid in that house. That's how,
5,000, child's probably.
It doesn't cover it. That's the thing.
and don't even get me started on a chapter 40B.
I mean, the
Because if
thing,
you think I won't do it,
yeah.
That sounds vaguely like a threat.
oh, it is.
It is.
40B for your subdivision?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't have the 10%.
Yeah, we would need that too. The town needs that as well.
All right, so, all right. Fine. If Mr. Scanlon was here this evening, he would urge me to let this play itself out and continue, so, what do you want to talk about now?
Well, as you've already noted, if I may, Mr. Chairman, this is a preliminary plan.
Yeah.
The rubber hits the road, so to speak, when we get to the definitive plan. I honestly, I do have some questions. We've talked about at length, the sidewalks, the dimension of the road width from 26 to 18 feet. I assume that at some point, the 26-foot requirement was in there and deemed something of a safety factor. If we're chiseling away at, again, safety issues, then I'm not too sure that 18, what's the magic with 18? Is 19 better, or is 16 better?
The thing you have to remember, Mr. Clark, is that the 26 was proposed for a public way. This is not
Mhm.
gonna be
It's not a public way.
It's a private way.
It's a private.
Yeah, but there's no difference.
There's
You gotta
someone living on
remember,
a
there's
private,
no
someone
difference
living on a
between a
private way less
public and a
entitled
private way.
to consideration than someone living on a public way? If all residents of the town of Dudley, are they not?
The private ways,
There's no difference, Guy Horn.
the other private ways in this town are not as wide as a public way.
Okay,
There's no
I'm not
difference.
sure,
They-
Mr. Warren, but I don't recall seeing in the rules and regulations that there is reference to a private way.
Because there's no difference.
Where is
They
it?
both have to be treated like a regular subdevelopment has to be treated. Just like on that country acres. I think
You're telling me
they-
2 cars can't pass each other on an 18-foot wide road?
It's 9 foot per lane, car's 5 feet wide.
Yeah, but delivery truck's 10.5 feet.
There's nothing on the road today that's wider than 8.5 feet, that's mass.
A fire
MassDOT.
truck is
8.5
103 feet wide. It says in the
Pass
code book.
a U-Haul truck over on Warsaw. I don't know how wide
Yeah,
that is, but
that thing's a death trap on Warsaw.
that was gonna hit the curb for
You
sure.
ever drive down there?
For 3 houses, I mean, if you go over to Dave's Way, there's a private way in the back of 4 houses, I believe. And I can't imagine it's wider than 18, it's probably less than 18 feet. I think if we look it up, it's probably like 12 feet wide. And it's servicing 4 houses.
On that road width, that goes to the zoning Board of Appeals, that's zoning law? No?
This is subdivision control law, not zoning.
Yeah, but it was
I mean,
in
this is very similar to Bridget's Way, with the exception there's one more house on the street. And I think with the private way, the town actually benefits from the fact that they never have to maintain or take care of the road.
Yeah, for how long though?
Forever, it's gonna
If
be
he
deeded.
dies, who's gonna take care of that road? No
He's not gonna
offense.
be
No, the
but-
people,
People who buy the 3
People are.
lots.
And when they start fighting over it, then they're gonna be calling the highway department.
No, they're not.
Yeah, and the highway department's gonna tell them to go pound sand because it's a
Private
private
way.
way and they're
Yeah,
gonna
but they're
have
gonna say,
a,
oh, no, you gotta plow so ambulance can get down.
Plows
Now,
21 roads
what
that
happens
right
when a
now.
plow breaks?
Well, at the last
On a
Board of
private
Selectmen's
road.
meeting.
We're not talking
the Board of
about
Selectmen
developments
voted
where
to, make
developers walk
repairs
away.
to a manhole cover
Not either.
on Misty Meadows, which is a private way.
And
So-
Misty Meadows has money in the bank to do it.
Well, no, this was town money that was going to be provided. Mr. Murray proposed that at the meeting, and it was approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Misty Meadows-
Town money,
Misty
not
Meadows-
Misty Meadows money, town money.
They still have money
So,
in the
in
bank.
other words, the town, there seems to be a
Yeah, he said.
very thinly defined line between private and public as far as ways are concerned.
so you want a public way, you want sidewalks.
No, no one said we wanted a public way.
Well, what are we saying
The
then?
I've just.
Oh, you think I-
Well,
oh,
we were
believe
talking
me.
about Dave's Way, we're talking
Believe
about
me.
Brittany's Way.
I'm
we're
building
talking about God
sidewalks.
knows what other location, I just wanted to bring that into context, because it was mention made at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting with regards to Misty Meadows, which is a private way.
Let's
which
make
we
it
went-
clear.
We know that very well, because we went through that betterment
But it was,
process.
it was developed and proposed and approved as a public way.
And it's not,
Right.
right.
Because
And
it
this
never-
is
it never
not
got
proposed as a
finished.
public way, and it would not be a public way, so they would both be similar, would they not?
No, because
They'd both be private ways.
this is going through a totally different process.
Really?
Yeah,
Where's the difference?
because this is being told up front. It's a proposed way,
Okay,
private way.
but the end result is they're both private ways.
The end result is the Misty Meadows is a defunct subdivision.
Defunct subdivision equals private way.
It wasn't intended that way whenever it was
No,
designed.
I'm not talking about the intent, I'm talking the result, the fact of it. The situation as it is now. It's a private way, is it not?
Yeah,
Right now it's
till
still-
it's- till it's
Okay,
approved.
it is. Thank you.
Well, if I'm building it wider, and I'm putting in sidewalks and berms, and I'm putting in subsurface stormwater drainage in a detention pond, you bet your butt that it's gonna be a public way, because I ain't gonna deal with it. And I ain't gonna make my buyers of those houses deal with it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm kind of new to this, more or less. I mean, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did watch it. I just, if you don't mind, can I just
Yeah,
kind
go
of
ahead.
say a couple words? So, I think, Mr. Wetruba, you had talked about this whenever I was a member of the board some time ago, and I think at that time you had like 8 or 10 houses on it or whatever.
Correct.
And I believe one of my comments was, look, you guys, you're out in the middle of sawmill out there where the houses are widespread apart. Why have all these small 15,000 square foot lots that are more or less out of character? It didn't go anywhere after that. It was just a small discussion. And then you're coming back with this, which I personally like more. I mean, I just kind of put myself in the place of someone who's gonna be living here. I'd much rather have one of these larger lots where I can actually do something with as opposed to one of the smaller lots. It's just my personal opinion. I understand what my fellow board members are saying about these waivers. I mean, I'm a little bit hesitant to really look at this. It's difficult to look at it big picture because there's a number of waivers. But, and I realize also that we don't want to set a bad precedent. I mean, we don't want to go around just rubber stamping everything so that the next guy comes around and does the same. But I take it more as if, for example, this is approved eventually with no sidewalks, that doesn't mean that the board is, to me, anyway, it doesn't mean that the board is saying, we don't need sidewalks in Dudley. It's saying for a small private way that's serving 3 houses, that's going 150 feet, for that, we don't need a sidewalk. So I would personally be a little bit more flexible with that, considering the fact that there's basically 3 houses that are going the 150 feet, the 2 in the end, they're basically going, 75 or so? That's walking across my own front yard. It seems to me there's a lot of these waivers that require input from other entities here in town. The reduction in the radius from 30 to 10 feet, the highway department, to me, would be, I'd like to hear what they have to say about that. The same with the paved road diameter at the cul-de-sac. And as long as these other town entities that have, in my opinion, more jurisdiction, more expertise in these matters are okay with them, I don't see a big issue with them personally. To what Mr. Chinaki was saying about the percolation test and everything, yes, we could theoretically here say we're not totally against the idea of country drainage, but that would require certain engineering to make sure that it actually works. We don't want to sit here and say, we're okay with it, to find out that two lots are gonna be flooded half the time.
Well, yeah, that was my scary thing, is you're gonna have a swamp if it doesn't go anyway,
Potentially,
you know what I
exactly.
mean?
I don't,
Right, right,
I
and
don't know
that's-
what kind of soils are out there.
And that's addressed in the peer review under item 11. It says a waiver was requested to allow for country drainage. GEI has no issue with this waiver request, provided that the project meets the Mass DEP Stormwater Management Handbook relative to applicability for housing development projects comprised of detached single-family dwellings on 5 to 9 lots. The stormwater management standards shall apply to the maximum extent practicable. So that's what we intend to show on the definitive plan.
This development proposes 6 detached single-family dwellings. That's
Yeah,
the
and you know
one
what,
where it
I've got a
says-
question with that too, because if you look at it, it's 5, and if you
Can I
take
just
the A
finish-
and R out.
Can I just finish up my comments? I got like
Oh, yeah,
2 more
sure.
seconds, sorry. Thank you. I kind of think that we're jumping all over the place, just like as last meeting. I would kind of like to go through these waivers kind of one at a time to find out if the board is amendable to each one or not. Find out if the board thinks that all of them are issues, or if just 1 or 2 of them are issues. Maybe that might help Mr. Wetruba and his team try to figure out how they can solve what the board sees as issues.
I think that's a great idea, because then, you know, it gives me an idea of where we're going, and, yeah, so I mean, I'm open to that. But just finishing up that thought about the 5 to 9 lots. The existing house and barn, this big parcel, that's an A and R. Lot 4, that's an A and R.
That's the other thing too. Lot 4, is it? I thought it was lot 1.
I know what you're gonna say. Lot 2, you notice we took the words A and R off of there? Because that's what, we had a long discussion with that with the engineer. We said, no problem, we don't care. We'll put the frontage for lot number 2 on the new way.
That was the only one.
Now
I was
that's
concerned
4.
about was lot 2? Yeah, I see it now.
Yep, that's the 4 lots. It's a 4-lot subdivision after those 2 A and Rs are pulled out. And we just saw it earlier tonight. A and Rs, I can come here with these 2 lots, pull them out as A and Rs, and then come back, and it's a 4-lot subdivision.
Just going by what Graves said, man. Calm down. Take a deep breath. All right, let's go do the waivers.
I'm calm. I think we're rehashing a lot of what we already talked about, and then we wanted to hear what Graves had to say
Yeah.
at the last meeting. Now we've heard what Graves has to say, and we're still rehashing this.
Well, there's a few things, like number 7, you said. I had a conversation, well, Tom had a conversation with Graves, he was at my house when I happened to be there. And Graves said that you can't find out if you need country drainage without the proposed grades of the road. Meaning, like what Dan was saying, one's higher than the other.
While we're talking about these, I'll pull up the email that I have from Graves regarding the discussion I had directly with him regarding that waiver.
Is that addressed in this letter we have from Graves in some way, shape, or form?
Number 7.
Number 7? Plan needs to include profiles, well, it just identifies a need as opposed to making any kind of judgment here, as I understand it.
The way I understood it is he needed to know what the grades were to figure out if he needed the drainage or not,
Yeah,
or if the drainage would work or not. A peephole test, I think he called it too, to see if it would drain. Is that what it's called?
yeah,
Peephole?
something like that, hydrologist report or something.
But I think, again, he's talking about during the definitive, working towards the engineering to get the definitive done. Otherwise, if he wanted all of that done for the preliminary stage, why the heck wouldn't he have told me or my surveyor?
Well, the whole thing is, is your land gonna support a low-impact subdevelopment as, like, if you have a high groundwater table, then that country drainage is out the door. Or if you need a swell, that swell has to still legally go onto your own property. It can't go onto the neighbor's or these homeowners' property. There's a lot he explained to me on how that works.
Some fire department here, is there something we could address and get them back out on the road?
Yeah, Mr. Wetruba,
Yeah,
members of our fire department. Is there something that was pertaining to this or subdivision that you wanted to speak about, or?
Unless you have a question, we've already had questions the last time.
Okay.
Well, Graves Engineering pointed you out in a couple things here.
Pointed who out?
Fire department, asked the fire department, like the radius at the end of the road, that's a fire code or something, he told me. The radius at the end of the road, that comes out to fire code or something, he told me that's a design standard.
Well, it's for fire roads, but that's not considered a fire road. A right-of-way or a driveway is different.
Well, it's considered a road.
And I believe Mr. Nudemacher told one of you the same thing when you called him.
Well, that was the road width, because I seen that new fire code's gonna make all residential roads 26 feet wide, but that code hasn't come into play yet.
Oh, 18 feet's fine. Brittany's
Yeah.
Way is 18 feet. You have another subdivision on Mason Road that's less than 18 feet. 18 feet is plenty to get all of our trucks up there with no issue.
There's also here a number on the engineer's comments, number 13, it's talking about waiver requested to eliminate the required underground fire protection cistern, if not done. Graves recommends the planning board solicit input from Dudley Fire Department. If cistern is required, then its anticipated location will need to be determined on a plan.
There's a hydrant 1,000 feet up the road with a downhill lie, so there'll be no head pressure.
Okay.
It'll just flow down. Actually, the pressure will be improved. Also, you have Merino Pond right across the street that we could draft out of, so you can waive the system.
Is there any other comments on here from Graves that?
Just a cul-de-sac, it's 80 feet diameter instead of 100, that's okay? Yep.
And he said there was gonna be grass in the center of the cul-de-sac, so I mean, we can just go right over the center of the cul-de-sac.
One of my questions for you, Steve, if you're gonna have grass like Brittany's Way in the middle.
Yeah, there's no sense in having it all paved. Give it a little more impervious, a little less impervious surface,
More
again,
concrete
helping with the, right, exactly. So I've got this email dated January 24th, from Jeff Walsh. I could forward this to any of you if you want to see it with your own eyes. He says, "Hi, Steve. Sorry it took so long to get back to you. Yes, your list is satisfactory to me." That was a list I sent him of the changes we were gonna make that are on here, with the exception of that one item, which is the section 3B2J, that topography, the grade that we were talking about,
Yeah, the first one I was talking about.
the first one you were talking about.
Mr. Chairman, does anybody on the board have any questions for the fire department, or?
No, I think we got them all.
No.
Thank you.
We're all set.
Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you, gentlemen.
for your patience.
Appreciate it.
Based upon the topography on the preliminary plan and my observations at the site, I would not have an issue if during preliminary plan review, you requested a waiver from section 3B2J. The topography should allow for compliant and reasonable centerline road grades. Nevertheless, the absence of the centerline profile at preliminary review does mean potentially greater risk for you at definitive review, in that I think this is a typo, if you two have to revise the grading. Please know that in addition to the 12% maximum grade in section 4A3, the subdivision street's maximum grade at the Sawmill Road intersection approach is important, and 12% on the approach would be too steep. So, obviously, if I brought a definitive subdivision to you and it had a higher than 12% grade approaching Sawmill Road, it would be a no-brainer that it wouldn't be approved.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what's the date on that letter?
You can forward it to me.
And I think we probably should request copies of that to be added
Just
to the
write it
record.
in, so.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Just write it in, so it's part of the meeting minutes.
I don't understand why you guys don't have it, because it was sent from Jeff to me, my surveyor, and Planner One.
Oh, now Planner One, he's not here today.
Can you get to his email? I'll forward it to you, and you distribute it as you
Oh,
wish.
it's today's date, or?
No, January 24th.
Okay. Prior to the canceled meeting.
Yeah, this was ready to go for the canceled meeting.
So, Mr. Wetruba, I just got one question. The lot line that's running north to south between proposed lot 5 and proposed lot 6. Proposed lot 6 is still your property, correct?
Yes.
So if that lot line had to move slightly, say to the west 10 feet or something like that, that's not a problem,
No, not at all.
okay? So I would say based on that, just doing some quick numbers in my head here, looking at all the area that you got with proposed lot 4, 5, and 3, 4, and 5, excuse me, and with lots 1 and 2, if that lot line was moved, I would say probably only about another 10 or 15 feet over, you would have enough area that if you put in a full road, full cul-de-sac, you would have enough area for 10 lots at 15,000 square feet per lot. You would also be able to put a duplex on each one of those 15,000 square foot lots.
Agreed, because it's a by right use in Res 15.
And if what you mentioned before to us, that you wanted to make, if you chose to make it a section 40 subdivision, you wouldn't even have to come to the planning board to get it done. You would just simply go file for your permits and talk to the zoning board of appeals.
God bless America.
So you could do 20 units versus 5.
So your political cover, when we have a definitive plan, and I come in with something like that, would be, hey, we have to accept it because he met all the waivers. But somebody might remember this meeting where you guys said, nope, don't want to give him the waivers and let him do this little thing. Gonna force him to do the big thing.
That's the options.
We are omnipotent, there's no doubt about it. We've just forced this whole thing, pushed it through on our own initiative.
Hey,
We can
nobody
congratulate
likes being
ourselves
forced
on
into
that.
doing
I mean,
anything.
I think your wording is a little on the rough side there, Mr. Wetruba, in terms of giving
I
us
think-
all of
I
that
think
power
I'm-
and
I
authority.
think I'm giving as good as
I'm a
I've been
little-
getting.
Honestly, I'm a little taken aback. I can't believe that you honestly could have come in to this meeting and not have anticipated my asking a question about sidewalks. Did you really come in here thinking I wouldn't bring that up?
Oh, I remember-
Honestly, yes or no?
I remember we discussed sidewalks, and I still am open to the idea of putting a non-paved sidewalk in that area off to the side of the paved area. My only concern is, what is that gonna do to the drainage situation?
I'm not sure if I will consider that a yes or a no. but
Yeah, exactly.
I have sidewalks in half of my road, and when the kids are walking to the bus, they don't even walk on the sidewalk, they walk in the middle of the road. On the other side of the other side of the
That's a
road.
parental issue I think you have to
Well,
deal with
it's
there, in
every
terms of
kid,
getting them
though.
on the
It's not just
sidewalk.
one kid.
Sidewalk is a lot better place for them to be, I think you'd agree.
Yeah, but there's only, like I said, only half the road has sidewalks, so. And I don't mean like half all the way around, I mean like half. on the other side.
I still don't think I got an answer to the question, but that's okay.
No, I'm sorry, ask it again.
The question was very simply, did you really come in here this evening not thinking I was going to ask a question about sidewalks?
Oh, no, and I thought that I answered it adequately to your,
And your answer then is an unpaved sidewalk is a possibility, a probability,
no, an unpaved sidewalk is definitely a possibility.
definitely a possibility. Okay,
Again, as long
okay.
as I can make it out of some kind of
Okay,
material
okay.
that meets the
Don't
satisfaction
say
of country
anymore.
drainage.
I'm happy with definite possibility. That sounds positive. Thank you.
It was, my misunderstanding, Mr. Clark, was a conventional sidewalk. In other words,
For somebody, some place that somebody can walk that's not on the road.
Right.
Which is going to be of a lesser dimension,
But-
18 feet.
but
And
the problem is if I build that, that doesn't meet the subdivision regulation requirement. That's why I still need the
Not
waiver.
specifically, but at least you've provided some part of compliance, if you will. We have something we can call a sidewalk.
All right, so let's go back to Mr. Edmiston's idea about let's going through these waivers. Mr. Edmiston, did you want to go through the waivers from the Graves report, or did you want to go through the waivers that were on the list that was in our binders?
I'm easy, whichever one's easiest for the group.
Steve's waivers, I'd say.
Okay.
Okay.
Which they're identical, they're just in a different order, and the only difference is that, that first one that you mentioned,
This is the
David, is
Graves letter of the
is
January
where
10th?
in Graves' letter, he talks about it.
I think they
Or are we
want to go
talking-
through the revised list of waivers
Okay, revised
here.
listing, okay.
So it's preliminary plans, conventional subdivision, number 2, contents, a profile of existing grades and approximate proposed finished grades of the roadway, drainage, and water facilities, which I think we've already talked about multiple times, and it was stated here that if you don't put it in the preliminary plan, you might have problems when you come to the definitive plan. You already know this, and you're confident that your engineer is gonna be able to deal with this situation, so. The next item is, the topography should allow for compliant and reasonable centerline road grades, is what you had in there for your comment, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we had a 6-foot offset, so it doesn't, so I need the waiver to accommodate for the fact that we're 6 feet off center line.
So next we're going, that was under section 3, now we're looking at section 4, A, streets, location and alignment. That was the street jogs with the center line of less than 125 feet should be avoided. Proposed private way will be almost directly across from the outlet of Lawrence Road.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, on the section 3 one, I'm not really 100% sure I'm following what is meant there, but it sounds to me like that's simply an engineering issue. In section 4, the item we just spoke about with the offset, if this private way had more than the couple houses on it, I would say maybe there's an issue, but with the 3 or 4, what is it, 5?
3.
3 houses that are on there, I have no issue with that one.
Okay, that's location and alignment. Property lines at street intersections shall be rounded or cut back for a radius of not less than 30 feet.
And my personal opinion, and this one, as long as the Department of, the Highway Department is good with this, I'm good with this.
Yeah, same here.
We don't have any information from the highway department, do we on
Yeah,
this?
I don't think we have anything.
No.
The issue with, the reason why they wanted the 30-foot radius is so that they can have a radius of where the road pavement meets, or in this case, the proposed way pavement will meet Sawmill Road. If you look at the drawing, the boundary lines and where the roadway is quite a bit of difference. You see the stone wall, and then the radius where the proposed way is? So because that's so far off, you can still have an adequate radius without having the full 30-foot radius on the boundary line. Can I point it out to you?
Yeah.
This is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So this is the 30-foot that they're asking for, but because this road is so far over from here, this radius here gives you plenty of room. You can still have a 30-foot radius out here, but you don't need it up here.
Okay.
Then after the radius one, we have width. The minimum width of the street right-of-way shall be 50 feet. The minimum width of pavement shall be 26 feet. Allow reduction of the right-of-way from 50 to 30 feet, and the paved road width from 26 feet to 18 feet. That was the way we're asking for it.
We heard from Fire Department / Public Safety, they seem to be okay with it, as long as Mr. Murray and the Highway Department is good with this, I have no problems with them.
Right. And I mean, I think if I was a purchaser of one of these 3 houses, I would want the road to be as small as possible, because I'm gonna have to pay to maintain it and pave it for the future.
Snow blower.
Not a 50 feet right away, that's what we hold everyone to, though.
The entrance to,
I know Bonner Road was,
Lion
you
Hill.
guys have 50 feet.
the entrance to Lion Hill
Road.
Estates is 40 feet wide.
40 feet?
Yeah.
Because you gotta figure out, you got utilities in there too, that's a 10-foot easement. And then you got an underground sewage and water, if you have sewage and water, there's another 10 feet.
There's sewage.
So if you do the math, you got 10, 10, there's 20 feet, plus the road's 18.
I think it'll work at 30 feet.
Yeah, but that would only leave you, let's say, underground electrical is required at 10 feet easement on one side of the road. So you get 10 plus your road's 18 plus another 10.
If I may interrupt, why can't part of that easement exist in the front yard of that house?
Right.
Because National Grid wants their own easement and you have to present that to them.
No, I granted, yeah, but I grant an easement on that lot before I convey the lot to someone else, and that goes with the land.
That would make that lot smaller.
No, it's gonna be lines that are underground. How's it gonna affect
Yeah.
the setback alone of the house?
All the
It's-
utilities on Linda Vista Lane are in my front yard, and I know about it.
Yeah,
There's a 10-foot easement for those lines,
In my front yard,
owned by the National Grid.
right, but not on the roadway.
on Lakeview Ave in
Ten-
Dudley,
ten.
there's a pumping station that's in somebody's front yard. That turned out to be an engineering mistake, but now there's an easement, and the town probably paid dearly for that.
All right, so the next one we
Or
got
the
is.
contractor, I should say, that put it in.
Next one we got is dead-end streets. Allow a reduction from 100 feet to the 80-foot paved road diameter, so that's the cul-de-sac. We already talked to the fire chief, he was happy with that.
Again, I think as long as the highway department's okay with it as well, I don't have any issues with this one.
I don't think the highway department's gonna care if they don't have to go down and plow it or maintain it.
That's true. True, too.
Up to what point?
Open space, parks, and playgrounds. Waive the open space requirement. So, I
I
mean,
don't have a problem.
we have, we
The
have,
cul-de-sac will end up being the playground anyway.
right, there's no
Like I
open
said, we got
space
plenty
in
of open space in town.
You
Lions.
generally can't play computer games in open spaces,
No.
so I don't think the kids will care.
All right, so the fire protection waived the construction standard of all underground cisterns. We just talked to the chief about that. He was fine with it. Now we're up to section 5B, street and roadway, the berms. Waive requirement of the berms. C, the sidewalks. We've had extensive discussion with that with Mr. Clark. Monuments, the roadway to remain private, iron pins at all corners in lieu of monuments. I mean, is that really a big deal, Mr. Wetruba? I don't think monuments are that expensive.
Yeah,
Actually, they are.
Things are like $400 a piece.
They're huge. I had no idea until I looked
You can
into.
buy
They
pre,
look like they're this
You
big
live
from
on
the
that
top,
road,
but
Ram.
you can buy the
Paved, right?
precast concrete
Yeah.
ones.
They put them in. I would just.
They don't have to
mold
be
it to 'em.
granite.
they don't?
No, you can put
I thought
precast,
they had, Tom, do you know?
precast concrete is fine.
I knew they had to be granite with a hole drilled in. the
That's
bottom.
what I was told.
Center of the
Precast
hole.
concrete,
Oh,
we've got it in plenty of
maybe.
subdivisions. It's
I was told
precast-
like $900 a piece.
No, the precast
Yeah, they used
concrete
to be
with an iron
400.
pin right in the
Yeah,
middle.
where I
and
live
just
on
bury it.
Piasta, it's all pins at the front part. I think they did the monuments at the back
And
part.
this was one of the
Where I
waivers
live
that
at,
they
I had to
granted
have-
up at
I had to
Brittany's
have it
Way, so
surveyed
that's
again,
why I
couldn't
was
find the
like,
damn pins.
Yeah.
I thought
I had
maybe
my
because it was a
pinhole
lot of
surveyed.
Brittany's.
It's pins at Linda Vista where I live too, but I mean, there's subdivisions in this town that have precast concrete monuments, and they're not that expensive.
You can do precast, go precast,
Okay, if that's acceptable, then.
because those rods,
We have to change the rules and regulations to accommodate that.
The monument's not defined in our rules and
No.
regulations.
It isn't? No?
Doesn't say granite pounds.
I don't think it, yeah.
I think at the end of the intersection.
says
you have
monument.
It
to
just
have
says monuments, you're
Right.
right.
So, and to me, the granite one with no rod in it is not, if it ever gets covered over, you're never gonna find it. If you got
Well,
the,
it's supposed to
Yeah,
stick a
metal
foot up
detector.
above the ground.
no, they're supposed to be flush with your finished
No.
grade.
On Amelia Drive, it had to be a foot off the ground.
I thought they drilled the center of it and put a pin in there for,
No, they
Yeah,
just
they
drill,
put a-
put a drill hole in it,
Put
granite.
a nail in there.
oh, so there's nothing, it's just that,
No.
no,
But the precast ones have a rebar in the middle, so you can find it.
okay.
All right, trees, we have that as a waiver on pretty much every subdivision in town.
I just took it off. You notice I crossed it out. I took it off. I'm not requesting a waiver for trees anymore. You know, I figured when we get to the definitive, because, actually, that was Jeff's idea, Mr. Walsh's idea in his review of the preliminary. He talks about we should wait until the definitive stage to talk about trees, because we were talking, at the last meeting, we talked about the idea of me trying to preserve some of the mature existing trees on the lot. He said if we wait until we get to the definitive, once we get an idea where the road's gonna be exactly and all of that, then we can pick and choose which particular trees you wanna keep.
Yep.
Just going back in time, Mr. Chairman, but it does state concrete monuments with a center bar shall be installed.
Okay,
And it also, it actually says granite monuments shall be 4 feet, so that apparently allows for both.
Oh, yeah.
okay, all right. So we can, yeah, so E, we can take that off, E.
And I think we're at the end of the list.
So unless I'm mistaken, it seems like the sidewalks is the big one that we're focused on right now? Then everything else seems like it's manageable?
It almost sounded, if I'm taking a little leap of faith here, but it almost sounded like sidewalks were somewhat manageable.
You can just spray paint a line, like
Spray
open
paint a line,
farms.
That would never happen. I do
No,
remember that one.
big picture, I agree 100% with Mr. Clark. The idea that we're going to be approving subdivisions without sidewalks is just wrong, in my opinion.
Well, it sets a dangerous precedent, that's the problem. Every time
Yeah.
you say no to something, it's very hard to say yes to it when the 99th occurrence comes.
Exactly. But to me, I mean, this is literally 3 houses walking 75 feet down. I don't see it as being a big issue here, but I understand the idea of safety, especially for children. And if Mr. Wetruba and his colleagues there can find a good solution, even if it's more of a unpaved, I think that's good. I think that's something.
Some pea stone pathway, something.
I mean, it's, the residents are gonna have to maintain this, so it's gonna be, out of our hands at some point in time, but you like to believe that.
Yeah, I'm sure we're
Have
gonna
the
wanna
same
have
kind of
something
idea.
at the shoulder anyways that's firm, you know?
Right, and
Just
if
in case somebody happens
Just in
to.
case,
If you put 3/4 inch crushed stone down at a 4-foot width all the way around the roadway, if somebody has to go off the road, they're gonna be on the crushed stone versus in the mud.
Exactly, taking out those kids we're talking about.
And as
Well,
far
we
as,
got a regular population explosion apparently planned for this particular area.
and as far as the country drainage is concerned, as long as, when it's all said and done, that we have all the engineering reports and they're all okay and.
Yeah,
water
I mean,
table- but then
obviously, once I clear this hurdle and I start getting into the definitive, and I start working with my engineer, then we're gonna have to start doing the testing over there. If, you know, if he goes out there and I think if it's fine and dandy, and they put a backhoe shovel in the ground, dig a hole and water starts squirting out, I obviously got a much bigger problem.
Correct.
So then, you know, I'm coming back and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, hey, turns out, guys, I gotta put in a subsurface drainage anyways.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. According to the approval process, within 45 days after the submission of a preliminary plan, the planning board, preferably with the advice of the Board of Health. Have you approached the Board of Health at all?
A copy of this that came
Board
up
of
at the, yeah, this was circulated to the Board of Health, a copy of this when I submitted it to the town clerk, and
And do they have any comment to make?
No.
No, okay. That will
Well, you got
silence
sewage
us.
over there now, right?
Please?
He's got sewage hooked up, right?
yeah,
Sewage is okay.
Good.
yeah, and I've got a letter from the,
You don't really need.
that should be in your packet also, I got a letter from the sewer commission.
Because if he had country style drainage, it actually affects Title V if you read that low impact.
Would you be on town water here or what, private wells?
Private wells,
Yeah.
the water line is like 1,500 feet away, and they won't bring it down the,
So private wells, and obviously you know that before you're gonna even be able to get a building permit, you gotta have a potable water source, so that's what the Board of Health would be interested in.
yeah, right, I remember that, because I live right around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's the same situation, I'm on public sewer, but I've got a private well. So it's a weird situation where I have a meter on my well, because it's the only way they can calculate what to charge me for sewer usage. And I have a T off of it, which is supposed to be forbidden, and normally it would be, but they do allow it in that instance, because if I'm washing my car
Yep.
or watering my lawn, none of that,
You don't have to pay for sewer.
exactly. So,
Okay, so now you know where you are. Yeah, I mean, this, in my opinion, this isn't all that far off from Britley's Way with the addition of one additional lot. And I approved Britley's Way, I thought it was a good idea at the time, you know? So, it's less impact for the kids, the land is developed, the town's gonna collect their taxes on 5 houses versus 10 or 20 houses, depending on which way you go. And like you said, if you had 20 houses here and there was 1 kid in each house, we wouldn't have enough money from the taxes to pay for the kids to go to school.
Well, the schools are looking for population right now, Mr. Chairman. They're looking for numbers.
so they can grow the budget. How does that help you and I?
It doesn't
As
help us, but
taxpayers.
It does help, it perhaps helps when that Chapter 70 calculation goes into effect, and we may stave off the.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and all special needs kids will move into these houses, and then they can get that money. I mean, we can't hope for that.
They'll all go to that agricultural school that we have to pay for.
It's not gonna affect our schools. The mill will affect our schools more than Wetruba's 4 houses.
So what's your next step, Mr. Wetruba?
So I wish Bill was here to clarify the process, but when I spoke with Bill, my understanding was that I need you to approve the preliminary, and that the preliminary is, I forgot how he put it, but it's not like it's written in stone. It doesn't mean I can go forward and do anything.
Right.
Can I, if I just may read from the rules and regulations?
Yeah,
if you
sure.
will, okay. All right, just the continuation, preferably let's see. Within 45 days after the submission of a preliminary plan, the planning board, preferably with the advice of the Board of Health, may give such preliminary plan approval with or without modifications or suggestion or disapproval, stating in detail the reasons for each disapproval. Approval does not constitute approval of the subdivision, but facilitates the procedures for preparing and securing final approval of the definitive plan. Failure of the planning board to act within that time shall not mean approval of the preliminary plan. One copy of the preliminary plan will be returned to the subdivider. So I guess apparently we can vote approval of, and we've already noted in terms of our suggestions, if you will, or the conversation or discussion of. Sure.
And then, so the one thing that Bill said that that he recommended that I do request, is that you do take a formal vote on all the waivers. Because
Individually?
Yes. Or if you want to put them in collectively, as you already know from my discussion, the problem is, the waivers we have left on the table, if any of those are voted down, I'm basically sunk. I gotta go back to Plan B, the nuclear option.
This doesn't suggest that, it just
Well,
mentions with or without
let me explain to you
modification or
what,
suggestion.
let me explain to you what Bill was saying. Bill was saying that it is in my best interest to secure the waivers now, because exactly what you just read in the regulations right there about a preliminary. I forgot how you worded it. Is it non-binding?
Non-binding.
Non-binding,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So here's what could happen. You guys approve my preliminary plan tonight, it's non-binding. You don't vote on the waivers. I come back with a definitive plan that I spend thousands of dollars to have an engineer prepare, and I bring it before you, and you say, well, I'm not gonna give you a 50-foot right-of-way, a waiver on the 50 feet. I'm not gonna give you a waiver on the road width. I'm not gonna give you a waiver on the radiuses up at the front here. And then, where am I? I'm sunk. The only difference is, my pockets are now empty. I've been fleeced.
Now, Graves Engineering, when I talked to him, he said hold off on the waivers till you guys have
Definitive plan.
definitive
And
plan.
I think that's the sense
Oh,
of
no.
what
Yeah,
I'm reading
no,
here.
that's what Graves Engineering said. No,
yeah,
you don't, we don't have enough information.
When did he say that to you?
I talked to him,
Yesterday.
yeah, yesterday, yeah.
He said
yesterday
hold off
called
on
me.
any waivers? Because what I saw
We
was,
don't
he
have
said hold off
actually a
on the
real
waiver
road
regarding the
design here.
trees.
We don't have the
If I
slopes
may,
and
Mr.
grades
Chairman.
and everything else.
Just to quote again, approval does not constitute approval of the subdivision, but facilitates the procedures for preparing and securing final approval of the definitive plan. So I don't, from what I read here, approval at this level, in terms of the preliminary plan, is meaningless. It's only at the definitive plan level that things start to lock in.
Yes, that's how Graves Engineering explained it to me.
I don't know what
You
Bill's
wait-
advice was, but I don't think
You
that's
wait till you get
entirely
more of a plan,
consistent with
showing
what's
the
here.
road design and everything, and then you do the waivers. Because right now, we vote on the waivers,
Right.
we're
We've
gonna be
locked
stuck.
ourselves
Yeah, we're
into
locked it
something
in.
which is not
Like
indicated
Graves
here.
Engineering said, you guys don't really have a legalized road design. You don't have anything on this plan. You have,
It's just a plot plan.
yeah, just a plot plan.
It would be beneficial if Mr. Scanlon were with us this evening for explanation. but
Well-
I have to go with what I'm reading here, frankly.
I'm going with what Graves told me, hold off on the waivers, so.
Mr. Chairman, I don't really, I mean, it's good to hear advice from others, be it the town planner or from Graves Engineering, but
It's going right
Same
to
time-
voicemail, I just tried.
at the same time, we're bound by our own conscience of what's right and wrong, and I'm not comfortable with just simply granting a bunch of waivers right now based on the plot plan.
Yeah,
Knowing Mr. Wetruba, I know that, I'm fairly certain that when he and his engineers come back with a plan, it will be very similar to this, to what we've spoken about, and there won't be any issues. But not everybody is as, has character that Mr. Wetruba has, and I think we've had it in the past where we've talked about something, and then a definitive plan has come back, and it's not what we talked about.
Right.
And then when you lock yourself into a waiver, and then you have someone, unlike Mr. Wetruba, who is not the most honest person in the world, has some different ideas, I think locking ourselves in at this early time is not the right issue to go. I would much rather give an approval to this plan based on the discussion of the two meetings, this meeting as well as the meeting on the, what was it, the 11th?
Well, if you were to approve the waivers tonight, you would be only approving the waivers on the plan before you. And if I come back with the plan completely changed or
Yeah,
grossly
but then we're
different.
locked in. If you change your plans, then we're
Honestly,
locked in.
I don't see that approval as being consistent with what I've just read, honestly. I can't see that.
I don't care what's read or anything else.
Well, I
I'm
think
not
we have
voting.
to care what's read, because it is the.
I'm not voting for any
rules and
waivers tonight.
regulations.
I'm not voting for any waivers.
Okay,
If I'm asked to vote for a
understood.
waiver, I'm voting
But
against
you
it.
do understand what
with
I'm
you.
saying?
Oh, yeah.
I do. That I could be hamstrung.
Right, but
But it just as we're counting on you, with your character, to come back with a plan that fits what we're talking about.
Or
You are the same way with us. We're all men
Let
of
me ask
character.
you,
We're
let me
gonna-
ask you this.
You have another option. You
If-
could come
if
back
Miss-
to the next meeting.
That's what I was just gonna suggest.
Come
If
back to the
Mr.
next meeting.
Scanlon is here at the next meeting, and
Okay.
Mr. Scanlon is able to advise you regarding the waivers, regarding taking a vote on the waivers, if he can explain it to you the way he explained it to me, that it was a reasonable request I just made, so that I do not go through the expense and time of completing a definitive plan and come back and find that for whatever reason, any of you decided to, a couple of you decide to change your mind about feeling so great about the waivers, right? I mean, it could happen.
Come back, and
okay,
we're just gonna be back in the same thing.
personally, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with getting Mr. Sandler's input and guidance
Yeah.
on this. I don't know how that's gonna square with what I've just read and what I believe I've read and understood. I do think we've kind of moved this thing forward somewhat.
You could
And,
still take,
and
you
I-
could still approve you could approve this without any of the waivers I requested tonight, and then when I come back at the next meeting, we could talk about seeing if I can get some kind of assurances on the waivers. Even if you don't take I don't know if there's a way that you could give me any kind of assurances without taking a formal vote. I kind of doubt it.
The assurance only comes at the definitive plan level, I think. I don't think you get
That's what
anything.
he just read it. I mean, if we vote to approve your preliminary plan tonight, that, we like it with the changes that were discussed,
Yeah.
and, it doesn't matter one way or the other. All that matters is what you bring in the definitive plan, and if we're willing to approve that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make myself pretty clear. I'm on the record, I was pretty clear about my understanding of each one of the waivers and how I
Yeah.
stand to each one. And then Mr. Scanlon can come here and give us all the advice in the world. I will not be voting on any waivers. If I'm asked to, I will vote against them until the definitive plan.
So let me ask
I
you this.
100% agree with Dan.
I'll have to go along with that, too.
Let me ask you a question.
Leave an open space?
If you approve this preliminary plan right here, okay, this doesn't get recorded, obviously. But it
Non-binding.
basically shows several of the key waivers that I need. There are no sidewalks shown on here. It's got the smaller radiuses, it's got the smaller right-of-way, it's got the smaller cul-de-sac.
Right,
It's
but
got all of my key needs here.
But
So,
we've discussed that you're talking about putting in some kind of sidewalk, possibly, if there's a way that's not an impervious sidewalk.
exactly. So,
But that's not shown on here.
so what do you want to do
Nothing shown
tonight?
on here. There's no road.
Approve the preliminary plan
Okay,
with the conditions of our discussions, of the comments made during this meeting and the meeting on the 14th of January.
But no
Okay.
waivers.
No.
should we?
Well,
way.
I made myself clear that nothing, to me, the only item that might cause contention would be the sidewalk. I think everything else is based on engineering, based on highway department, based on public safety. All those come back good, I'm fine with everything else. I would like to see engineering as far as the country drainage is concerned. As long as everything comes in fine and the plan is like it is now, I have absolutely no problem, I'm on the record. But if for some reason this road is now over here, or I'm not gonna sit here and be comfortable granting waivers for things that I don't know how they're gonna be on the definitive plan.
Yeah, I mean, the position of the road, there's no reason to change it. The length
No,
of the
there
road and the
isn't.
width and all of that, if
There's no reason for 35, for the one that was supposed to be on the agenda tonight to change, but they're changing. And they're asking for all kinds of changes to whatever we approved a long time ago. This is nature of the beast.
so are we sure, though, that the majority of the board members are okay with the reduction in the right-of-way and the reduction in the paved width?
I don't
Well,
know.
if we're gonna take a vote on approving
We'd have
this
to take a vote to
preliminary
make anything
plan,
binding,
we'll
then.
find out.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if discussion's ended, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this preliminary plan as presented with the conditions and discussions, and what would you want to call it? And compromises as discussed at this meeting and on the meeting on the 14th of January.
Previous meeting. Okay. All right, we have a motion. Does somebody want to make a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
To be continued.
Okay.
You're moving forward, Mr. Wetruba.
We'll get clarification from
Yeah.
Bill when he gets back in town.
I mean, we're all interested in hearing what Bill has to say.
Yeah.
Whether it's gonna persuade us to do something different, we don't know.
And believe me, the first thing I'm gonna do when I talk to the engineer is I'm gonna talk to him about, can that surface on the side of the road be something that you can walk on?
And you need to have them do a cross-section of that, what the roadway's gonna look like.
Oh, yeah, well, that goes without,
Right, and then show that
I understand.
walking
Worried about
path.
drainage dumping onto other people's property.
Drainage, that's a big thing. Sidewalks, that could be waived. It's only one guy.
Well, he
over
might
there,
dig a
Richard.
perk hole test and fail, you never know, and then start with something else.
It's actually all upland there. It's great. It's a great piece of property.
My only concern is it's 2 feet higher than the road.
Well, they'll be
Right now
addressed.
where it is,
Yeah, that's
I know
it.
you're gonna be cutting it out. but-
Yeah, that's what he was talking about in the review there, which is why we didn't wanna show the grade now, because we're probably gonna regrade this front
Yeah.
to improve the sight line.
That's what I heard from Graves, is he needs to know what that final grade's gonna be to determine whether the country drainage is gonna work. That's what I took out of the
Yeah,
conversation.
you didn't
with
want to
Tom.
dump anything on the sawmill. That all has to
And
stay
you
on that
also-
property.
You also need your perk test to see if it's gonna,
Support it.
if it's gonna absorb the water that does run off.
Yeah, well, the engineer must know about that.
That's a mass,
He never mentioned that to
That's
me,
in
and
Mass
I
DEP
just assumed he
rules and
probably figured my
regulations.
engineer would know. And I'm looking at it now and I'm like, I've never even heard of that. I mean, I know what a perk test is, but it's usually for a septic system.
Right.
no, it's in Mass DEP on low impact subdevelopments. So you have to have a soil test, and then you have private septics, you have to be so far from that low impact area as they determine it.
So we'll have you on the schedule, on the agenda for the next meeting.
Sure, all right, yeah, so we could talk about,
Yep.
Just
we
wanna
can-
make sure
We can
that,
talk with Bill.
yeah.
So you can put him down on the next meeting. I think the next meeting, though, is the next meeting the one that we have no, it's a month away, right, for the,
A month away for.
all right, so yeah, you can be on the next meeting at the same
March
time.
1st.
Okay.
Standard business, I think, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, up next, standard business.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Wetruba.
With Bill not here, I looked in the book, I didn't see anything for, this is the discussion, status reports on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates, Rocky Hill Estates, Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive, Tobin Farm Estates, Lyon Estates.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think you've been the lead person with regards to Eisenhower. Has anything changed in that regard?
Nothing has changed, I can try to make some more calls there, but the calls I've made so far have not been answered, and the emails I've sent have not been answered.
You're gonna
so-
get blocked pretty.
That's the reaction of
Yeah.
Mr. Scanlon we've been getting.
My hope is that it's, the developer is probably in Florida for right now, but my hope is that when he comes back in the spring, I can get in touch with them and see what.
Alternate plan might be we adjourn and meet again in Florida and make it even more convenient for the.
For him? Yeah. So,
Saw Lions Estates that, the Board of Health was making Tom Ravine go before the Board of Health, something about the wells. I don't know what it was, but, because he never showed up. Yeah, Salingo was there as the park tester.
One going licensed by the state to be a park.
It's the last Board of Health meeting. I don't know what it was about, but something with wells.
okay,
He doesn't agree with the town's regulations regarding wells.
No.
He didn't, he had a problem with the regulations.
I figured those
So they
wells were
invited him to
active.
come in to talk about it, but for some reason he didn't
yeah,
make it.
the only other thing I can say about that, I took a ride down there recently, probably a week ago, and there was still a ton of runoff from the lots
Yeah, I
into the
seen
roads,
that.
because there's no berms there. I mean, I think we really gotta make sure going forward that all future subdivision developments, if they're gonna put in the binder course for the road has to include the berms. Cause there's no way to keep the dirt on the lots otherwise, especially when the lots are higher than the road.
Yeah.
And I don't see any inspections or anything in our folder for Legacy Landing, Country
I-
Club Estates.
If I may, not to well, I guess I did interrupt, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, but as you know, I abut the Legacy Landing, and I've walked through there regularly, and in fact today as well. And it looks like some of the debris from the area has blown into the church parking lot.
Okay.
I did take some pictures of that, but I left my phone at home, so I apologize for that. And there's that barrier that's supposed to be in the
The silt-
perimeter.
silt fence.
That, I think you've observed
Yeah.
that is pretty much gone
Yeah.
in many places, so
Alright.
there's some work to be done there, hopefully.
Have you seen him working up there? No?
Yeah, they were today,
yeah?
it's all inside pretty much, and they come and they go, they're not there with any regular schedule apparently.
No site work going on.
Uh,
Excavator, dirt moving.
Yeah, well, they've been moving one of those excavators around. I don't know that they've been moving any dirt, but they reposition the equipment periodically for some unknown reason. It needs to be cleaned up, I think it's
Yeah.
a good idea, around the perimeter and in the property itself.
The other ones that are on the list here, SEP Solar on Oxford Ave, we had a engineer review on that, I think the last meeting or the meeting before. They were working on some runoff that was happening on that, and they had to go to conservation, and I think that got taken care of.
Okay.
JD&D on Oxford Ave, there was a site inspection there, that was in one of our previous books. He did the drainage work there, and that's moving forward. And you said that there was Mr. I'm drawing a blank.
Me.
Mr. Clark, you mentioned today that there was an article in Stevens Mill.
There is an article in the Worcester Telegram today with a picture.
Mhm.
It was a fairly good-sized article, and one of the principals is mentioned by name and suggesting, I believe the thought was that things would start happening in the summer. It was not, there was no specific date.
I thought it said April they were gonna start.
Well, that's been kind of a rolling target.
I've seen that too.
Hopefully, I think what I took from that article was it's still in play, that it hadn't hit the wall, and we weren't looking at a dead end there. And I did have conversation with Mr. Waddle, and he did indicate that the agreement had been made with Mill LLC, I believe, the property owners of the Tri-Valley location, with regards to the Mill Street access.
Great. Number 3 we have on our agenda is review of decision for Nichols College Townhome Project and possible vote to approve. Did we get anything from Nichols College?
This is regards to the sale of the property at 99 Center Road, I believe.
I just got this from Bill, but nothing else attached with it.
Push it out more.
What's that?
Pushing it out more.
Hmm?
Probably couldn't evict those people living in the house.
No, I think we're gonna wait to vote on, we already voted, but I think we're gonna wait to sign this until we see the actual paperwork that they're the current owners of the property. So, we won't have anything on planner's plate, Bill's not here. Signature for registry deeds, authorization signatures, we did that already.
Did that.
Any comments from the planning board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would welcome Mr. Edmiston here.
Yeah, welcome back.
Has rejoined the board.
Thank you for
It
volunteering.
was an interesting evening, and that Mr. Wetruba was on that side of the microphone, and Mr. Edmiston was on this side of the podium, so we've changed locations, but the cast of characters remains pretty much the same.
So I don't think we're gonna get any comments from the audience?
Spoken enough.
No?
No? It's all talked out. Next meeting we have is February 22nd, here in this room at 7 PM. Is there any vouchers that need to be signed? No. And no other town notices or other correspondence?
There was one thing that I understand from the town manager's desk, there is a requirement of the address to the department heads, asking them to put in place or to develop budgets that are 10% less than the last fiscal year. I don't know if Mr. Scanlon in the planning department are affected by that, and his not being here, I think means we won't get an answer to that.
And none of the department heads
No, I appreciate that.
Are we
but I
gonna,
think
are we gonna cut out all our, all of our expensive
Our half.
seminars?
I don't know. I don't know
Will that
what
come
the
up, will that
implications
come
would
up to
be.
10%?
I don't know what the implications would be, and I
Okay.
don't know whether, I would think that Mr. Scanlon, as acting planner, is considered a department head of some sort.
Yes, he would be.
Yeah, again, we'll wait for Mr. Scanlon's input on
Yeah.
that, but I believe those budgets were due by February 9th.
Tomorrow.
So that will be before we meet again. We'll find out perhaps after the fact.
Or maybe they'll just cut us 10% automatically.
Right, if our budget is such that 10% is gonna be very meaningful.
They can't cut your stipends.
Yeah. They could give us half of the Board of Selectmen's. All right. Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would move that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
All right.